Hello again. Happy third week of Advent. Can you believe that? Can you believe that Christmas is next week? Somehow it just doesn't quite seem real. There is still quite a bit going on here at St. Anne's, and especially in our school, even though we are limited in the things that we can do right now. There's still plenty of room for anyone who wants to make a reservation for our Christmas Eve or Christmas Masses. Come on out. Although, for those who cannot attend Christmas Masses with us this year, I definitely understand the concerns that people have. I recently met with a parishioner who told me, if I'm not coming to Mass right now, why would I want to come when there's potentially twice as many people in the church? And I can't argue with that. So, let me start with why I was inspired to sit down and make this video now. I have a script with me because I put a lot of thought into this, and I want to make sure I say this well and correctly. I thought about doing this because many people have been reacting and even reaching out to me about comments that Governor Northam made in a news conference last week. Now, I'm somebody who tries to stay out of politics, at least publicly. It is not my role as a pastor to tell people who they should be voting for or to be condemning or endorsing candidates or parties. That's not why I'm here, and that's not what people expect from me. I'm here to teach the faith and help people form their consciences so they can make those decisions for themselves. People are definitely smart enough to do that without me telling them what to do. So, however, there are times when a person in a high-profile position makes a statement that is of enough concern that there needs to be some response for the church. Again, I'm not making this video to attack or tear down anyone. In many ways, I should be saying thank you, Governor Northam, for giving me the inspiration and the opportunity to talk about something that, as I think about it now, we really don't talk about enough. And that is the importance of the Mass and exactly what it means to us as Catholics. There's many prominent leaders in the church who have already made comments about this, but there's some things that I especially wanted to say about this. And I'll start with what the governor actually said. Worship outside or worship online is still worship. You don't have to sit in a church pew for God to hear your prayers. For me, God is wherever you are. Those are some of the comments he made. Now, I should start with this. Are any of those statements incorrect? No. We do not need to be seated in a church pew for God to hear our prayers. Worship outside and worshiping online is indeed worship. There is, however, a very important distinction that is being omitted, at least in these statements. Worship and sacrament are not interchangeable. I can indeed worship God wherever I am and whatever I'm doing. However, that does not necessarily mean I'm receiving a sacrament. Sacraments can never be administered virtually. Now, before I go any further, I need to clarify something very important here. I have been a little hesitant to address issues like this during the pandemic while many people are not coming to Mass because I don't want to appear critical of those who have chosen not to attend Mass because they have concerns for their own health or safety. There are people who, for many reasons, are in a high risk of developing very serious complications if they get sick with this virus. And I would never ask anyone to put their life at risk to come to Mass. I also know that there are people who are choosing not to come to Mass because they are in a position where they come in contact with many people who are at high risk, and they want to minimize the risk of them getting someone else sick. In my opinion, those people are making a very noble sacrifice by avoiding the Mass. So, now that I've said that, what is the real reason I was inspired to do this and talk about these issues? It goes back to things that I have written in the past, but I'm thinking now that I really need to spend more time talking about this, so I'm going to start right now. There's a crisis in our church that has nothing to do with any virus. How many people know what the single largest religious denomination in the United States is? And I'm guessing most people have correctly guessed that it is the Catholic Church. Who knows what the second largest religious group in the United States is? And it's former Catholics. And therein lies the problem. Many people, at an alarming rate, are choosing to walk away from our faith. And this is especially true with our youth. Matthew Kelly wrote that our church is hemorrhaging youth. And I think his statement is absolutely correct. There are many more reasons for this than I can talk about right now. The fact that people are growing up without ever truly taking ownership of their faith, they're not being led to conversion. The influence of moral relativism in our culture is definitely contributing to this. But through it all, I think there is one very important thing that is making it easier for all of these things to influence people. And that would be a lack of understanding of the Mass and how important our liturgy is in our lives. The Eucharist is something that was instituted by Christ himself. The apostles continued to practice this in the early church. In the 2nd century, St. Justin Martyr wrote an apology to the Roman government defending Christianity, and in that he gave a beautiful description of the liturgy they celebrated, and anyone who reads that will see a description that is so close to what we are celebrating today. However, this is more than just us practicing, carrying on an ancient tradition. This is our full and active participation in the death and resurrection of Christ. Every time the Mass is celebrated, there is something happening that does not happen anywhere else in the world. It is an encounter that transcends everything we experience in this world. It is an encounter with a presence that we cannot encounter anywhere else in this world. And that is why I find it concerning when people make statements about worship that fail to recognize the true meaning and importance of the Mass. Yes, I can and should live my faith in whatever I'm doing, wherever I am. If I'm out by myself, hiking on a trail, I can still pray and I can worship God, and these are all good things that I encourage everyone to do. But we also have to understand that none of these things will ever come close to what is happening at the Mass. And I truly believe that if more people understood this, there would be far less people leaving the church. Back in the spring, when we had to shut down the churches and Masses were live stream only, there was a lot of sadness and anger being expressed by the people about not being able to come to Mass. There was a small group of people that even went as far as demanding that priests disobey their bishops and celebrate public Mass anyway. While I thought then, and still believe now, that it is highly inappropriate for anyone to ask a priest to disobey his bishop, I am nonetheless sympathetic. I understand where that sentiment is coming from. It is coming from a deep understanding of what the Mass truly represents to us, and not only that, but a deep understanding of what is being lost when we are not able to attend the Mass. I want to close by just saying again that it's not my intention here to encourage anyone to come to Mass who has been staying away out of concern for their own health and safety or that of others. Bishop Nestow has dispensed all the faithful from the obligation to attend Mass, and that remains in effect. But know this, for anyone who is not able to be here with us right now, we miss you. I miss you. And I am praying that the day will come very soon when we can all gather again in this church for this most holy, important, and wonderful celebration.